You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is about keeping your calm in the midst of chaos, and I have with me a very special guest. Daphne Erhart is a psychologist, world traveler, NLP master practitioner, best-selling author, speaker, and founder of Soul Spa Retreats. With over 25 years of experience in the field of psychology, Dr. Daphne knows how important it is to prioritize self-care and nurturing your inner self. Today, regaining control of oneself and staying calm in the middle of chaos is an art we all need to master. But how do we keep our balance when circumstances become overwhelming and unpredictable? How do we steer that ship through the storm when the waves seem insurmountable? Emotional control seems to be the biggest challenge for humans, yet it is also essential if we are to survive and thrive. So, Daphne, I believe you are traveling at the moment. Is it for work, play, or adventure?
It's for life. It's my lifestyle. I have become a digital nomad. I travel and I'm a world citizen. So I'm in North Macedonia right now, and I have just learned to really love living throughout the world. But your topic is really interesting and fascinating because I come across many storms as I travel. And of course, storms are subjective. My storms might not be someone else's storms, but if I'm in a new place and I have the chaos I deal with, it's my storm, and I have learned to kind of deal with that. But we all have storms in life. We all have those moments where we have to all of a sudden deal with something that feels shocking or
it's out of our comfort zone, and we can feel overwhelmed. Exactly. It's just another thing and another thing, and then you get to a point of overload. And so we live in a world which has a little bit of acceleration now in overload. You know, as soon as you turn on the TV, there are negative news reports, and there's wars over here and financial collapse over there. And it seems to be very overwhelming for a lot of people as they try and recalibrate and navigate and reposition themselves in their lives to, you know, protect and defend their families and to stay in good health, because, you know, health is everything. If you don't have your good health, you can't think properly, you can't navigate your way out of trouble. You find it very difficult to survive and thrive. So when people are in that highly emotional state where they feel very overwhelmed, and even panicked, why is it more difficult to be able to solve problems when you get caught up in the emotion and the drama of something?
That's a great question to understand ourselves. Why is it that it's difficult to problem solve when we are in this state? And most of all, it's because we're in this fight or flight situation. We are in shock. And when we're in shock, it's difficult for our logical and emotional minds to all of a sudden simultaneously come together and, you know, do things the way we would like it to happen perfectly. So when we're in overwhelm like that, we need to process it. And I'll let you go on. I know you have other questions.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in what happens in that fight or flight state, because, you know, there's a lot of adrenaline that pumps. So how does the brain work when you have a lot of adrenaline pumping? I believe that the reasoning part of the brain, the prefrontal lobe, kind of shuts down, or it has less resources, and all the resources and energy goes back to the primitive limbic system, which is the fight or flight. Got to run away from the lions, you know, or fight them, or, you know, we've got to survive and we've got to act quickly. And so there's not a lot of time for thinking in those circumstances. And we can make decisions. We don't have the time to assess, should I go this way? Should I go that way? What's a reasonable response? We tend to respond very quickly to fear. And fear can also be immobilizing, you know, not just, you know, it pumps more adrenaline, so your muscles get ready to run. You could also just freeze like the rabbit in the headlights, right?
Yes.
So when people find themselves so overwhelmed, what are particular strategies that you found are helpful to recalibrate, to get yourself together again, to think clearly?
Yes. Oh, you said so much there. So much to touch on. So we do become in this fight or flight system where we are physically, it's almost as though a lion is chasing us, or we are in danger. And it can be in danger physically, or it could be emotionally, our ego, and ego isn't a bad thing. Ego keeps us, ego is we care about ourselves and our well-being and how we view ourselves, when we want to be viewed as certain ways. So when those things are triggered, it's easy to become very defensive and just want to protect ourselves. So what can help during those times is to be able to settle ourselves, become aware, become self-aware. However, I want to preface this with, when we are in that state, sometimes it's not possible to all of a sudden say, okay, now you can't be in this state. If we're in that state, it's for a reason. And to give us ourselves a little bit of love and realize, maybe what I need is time to process this. I don't have to react immediately. I don't have to give an immediate answer if I'm feeling attacked. I don't have to, there's that external pressure. If there's really a physical threat, of course, get out of the area, but to give yourself some time. So some people have mastered the art of thinking very clearly and doing a really great job during these times. For example, Olympic gymnasts. Have you noticed how they are so focused? It's like they get in this zone, and you would think that they would crumble under that pressure, but they've trained themselves to get into this zone where they're extremely self-aware, and they are creating things with how they think, creating how their body moves exactly with how they think.
Yeah. So do they use visualization techniques in order to detach and to be separate from that fearful circumstance, to be above it or outside of it?
Well, the funny thing is, with gymnasts, you can't detach physically. You have to be completely integrated. So I think that sometimes we feel like we have to detach and just think outside, but the most beneficial will be to integrate the body and the mind, which cannot always be done. It takes practice, but that's the goal, to just let yourself kind of practice with that.
Yes.
And
so fear and doubts, I think, are the worst saboteurs, aren't they? Because I remember when I was younger and going through school and doing exams, I really hated exams. They just made me freeze in fear, and I couldn't think clearly, and I couldn't answer the questions the way I knew how they should be answered, because something was interfering with my ability to perform. And it's the same with, let's say, an acrobat that walks on a high wire. If they just think with a doubt that they could fall, they could balk themselves and actually fall. So your own thoughts preempt what your body might do. You actually trigger yourself and sabotage yourself with a doubtful thought.
Yes. So focusing
the mind is a big player in that performance arena, isn't it?
It is focusing on what you want, visualizing what you want to have happen, rather than, you don't want to think about, oh, I might fall. You think about, what will it be like when I reach the end of this tight wire?
Oh, I like that. Yes, focus on the goal.
Yes, focus on the goal being reached successfully. And then also, you can be aware of thoughts, aware of feelings, aware of letting yourself feel and process the fear at the time, but kind of let it go through you, rather than, oh, I'm so fearful, I'm tensing up, and I'm just going to keep the fear, feel it, and then let it pass.
Well, yeah. So the more you fight it, the worse it gets, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
when you face it and go to the other side, I like to use what's called Gedanken experiments, which is a German word for thinking experiment. And you go, well, what is my worst fear? Let's walk down that imaginary pathway and see what would happen. And I get to the other side and look back and go, oh, that wasn't really so bad. So I kind of trick myself into, you know, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, it wasn't so bad. And my imaginary conjurings are much worse than the reality. That's usually the case, isn't it? If we face our fear, we can get through to the other side. And it's never as big an issue as we imagined.
yes, so I'm sure those tight wire walkers and gymnasts, they probably face their fears beforehand on their own internally, because you wouldn't want them facing the fears right when they're doing it. Well, I wouldn't say it that way, but yeah, it takes a lot of processing, and it's good, it's healthy to process it and let yourself feel the fear and go anyway. And another thing is that processing feelings and processing very difficult feelings in the presence of someone who truly cares and loves you is very healing and very, it really, really helps. So if there's just one person in your life, one person that you trust, they might not be exactly like you or understand everything completely, but if you know that they really care about you and you process your feelings in their presence and they just accept you and listen, that can be so healing. It helps you release some and process it as well, and move to the next step.
I guess it's a confirmation, isn't it, from someone you trust that you're okay. So because when you have doubts about yourself and fears, it's because you need that validation. And then once you get that confirmation from someone else, you feel more secure in yourself.
Yeah.
So I was thinking too about emotions being a physical thing. So we talked about adrenaline before. It's a real chemical reaction in the body. And I was thinking that there are also some physical things that we can do to get to calm the body down so that we can think more clearly again. So when you're feeling highly emotional, agitated, feelings of anxiety, you may do things like having a walk, a long brisk walk with lots of fresh air and, you know, get your heart rate up, get the blood circulation going, get oxygen into the brain, get into nature. Nature is very healing as well. And another thing I like to do is use magnesium. So I'm a supplier and manufacturer of Elektra Magnesium. We do transdermal magnesium products. So they're very easily absorbed through the skin and don't require digestion. And so it's very calming to the muscles. So when you're tense, obviously your muscles are squeezing, your vascular system, the fine muscles in the vascular walls are squeezing together, the blood pressure's going up. So everything is kind of in that fight or flight squeezing state. So if you can start to physically relax your muscles with magnesium, which is a muscle relaxant, that's one of the physical things that we can do to help calm down that system, to then help us think better. And also it promotes better sleep. So if you do it before bed, you get a much better night's sleep. When you have a refreshing deep sleep, you also wake up more refreshed and clearer the next day as well. So it's very, very good to control, to manage, rather, probably manage is a better word, manage stress in any situations. I take my hat off to the paramedics and the emergency workers that go out and they're the first that greet accident victims. I think, oh my gosh, I'd faint. I couldn't do that. It's not in my makeup. But there are people that can handle that so well, and they're very good at switching off the brain and going straight to the practical, you know, thing to do, the right thing to do, the triage. And they don't let the emotion and the fear and the drama of the circulation of the circumstance get to them. They can suppress it and it may pop out later and it may cause issues later, obviously, where they need, you know, therapy. But in the moment, they're very good at handling a crisis. So we really need those people. And I guess some people are better than others at handling crisis, aren't they? That's why we need each other.
We do need each other. And the magnesium, that's very interesting. I've never heard of it being applied on. So how is it exactly applied onto the skin?
Well, you can use it as a moisturizer or a lotion. So it's a
Oh,
double-edged because it also gives you beautiful skin. But at the
that's
same
nice.
time, the skin is a large reservoir. It's a big organ of the body and has the
Yes.
capacity to hold nutrients, and especially water and electrolytes. The electrolyte being magnesium in this case, helps attract water. And the fats of the cream and the lotion help hold that water in, so you get a nice plumping up of the skin. At the same time, this reservoir is making available to the body the magnesium that's needed as and when it's needed. So it can take a couple of hours to soak up and move inside the body, or you could have it straight away. It depends how hungry the body is, because it's a self-regulating mechanism that helps it take up the magnesium from the skin. Yeah, we have a lot of massage therapists absolutely loving to use it. Also chiropractors, physiotherapists are people that work with body therapies, because when you relax the muscles and the central nervous system is calmed, all the therapies work so much better. You get much faster results. Even psychologists are recognizing the need now to relax the muscles, relax the whole nervous system. Before you can work on the mind, the muscles have to relax.
Yes. So does it work? So for example, I have some back pain right now. If I applied it directly to that spot, it's good to directly apply it right where that is to relax the muscle?
Massage it in, because massage is a form of friction that increases the heat. It also encourages more blood circulation, so the blood vessels come closer to the surface. So the penetration of the magnesium is always faster with massage and heat as well. Heat works well, like infrared.
Okay, this is fascinating. I mean, we all know about taking vitamins. I just hadn't heard of it being topical before. So I'm learning something new today.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have digestive issues, and it's difficult to get enough magnesium from the food supply, especially if you're a high-end user. You need a lot of magnesium, more than the average. And they're usually people who are under a lot of stress, who've had traumas, are in injury recovery, have had operations, who do shift work. Any kind of stress or trauma can cause excessive loss of magnesium. And then there are people with kidney issues. So if the kidneys aren't working properly, you're peeing out a lot more magnesium than you should be. So there are a lot of reasons why we would be deficient these days. Most people are deficient to some extent. And
can a doctor do a blood test to see what we're deficient in with magnesium?
Blood tests aren't as accurate as tissue analysis, because 99% of the body's magnesium reserves are stored in the muscle and bone, and it's only about 1% floating around in the blood. And that's transient, and it has to be kept in a very strict range to supply the heart and the vascular system with enough magnesium for your electrical energy supply. And so what happens is, if you're not getting enough from food, or you're peeing out too much magnesium, the body has to scoop up from the reserves stored in the muscle and bone to supply the blood. So the muscle and bone are often sacrificing their stored magnesium to give it to the blood. So you could show normal levels of magnesium in the blood and still be deficient in the muscle and bone. It's not an accurate indicator of whole of body magnesium. But the symptoms tell you a lot more. The symptoms tell you about magnesium deficiency. And when you get enough, the symptoms go away. So that's pretty well what most people do. If it works, you know, and whatever you need. So if it works and that's the right amount for you, you can use as much as you like transdermally, because the body's in control of what it takes up. So that's the beauty of using it transdermally. You don't need to be super accurate. You just need to supply that smorgasbord that's in the skin, and then allow the body to take up in its own wisdom what it needs. Yes, it's a great system.
I've learned a lot
natural and no chemicals.
Yes, that's great. That's good. And you don't need a prescription for it, because it's a regular mineral.
mineral.
Right.
It's the master mineral, and it's directly related to energy production and the control of calcium in the body, and also calming of the central nervous system. So really, really vital component in good health. In fact, life is not possible without magnesium. That's how important it is.
Yeah.
So why I do the Body Charge podcast is because we focus on natural health and how people can self-care and keep themselves protected, because there are a lot of environmental assaults these days. There are heavy metals that can block magnesium. There are, fluoride, for instance, in the water supply can block or bind up magnesium. So even though you might be consuming it, if it's together with fluoride, your cells can't absorb it because it becomes insoluble for cells. So in a sense, fluoride can steal your magnesium. So you can't avoid the fluoride altogether, because once they put in the water, it ends up in the juice or something else that you might consume. You go to a restaurant, you can't really control it 100%, but you can minimize your exposure to fluorides, and you can add extra magnesium to your nutritional supply, which includes, water or transdermal and foods with magnesium. And that's then protective, because if you have a lot more magnesium, it then protects you from any kind of trace fluoride exposures. And other heavy metals, lead, mercury, there are a number of metals that can block magnesium. So, and we are overexposed to chemicals these days. So we have to be a lot more vigilant than we ever used to be, and eat organic, and, get, proper exercise and avoid pollution. I'm sure you'll know with all your travels how important it is to keep your health up to speed, because you can be exposed to a lot of pollution, and be in a hotel under a 5G tower, which isn't all that healthy.
There's so many different things. Yeah, it
Stresses,
is very healthy.
they are.
Yes, to be healthy. That's number one with traveling, just stay healthy. And I'm constantly aware of my body and how I feel as I travel, because, if I get sick when I'm at home, I know how to take care of it. But if I'm traveling, I'm starting to feel sick, immediately I do everything within my power to rejuvenate myself and feel better as fast as I can. Because first of all, I don't want to be sick while I'm in a place that I'm enjoying. And second of all, while I'm sick, to figure out the healthcare and navigate all that would be stressful.
Yeah.
And more stress will make me more sick. So I just need to immediately catch it.
Yes, traveling is a very big stress on the body. In and out of planes and airports and up in high altitudes, there's more radiation up there. Lots of things can overstress the body during traveling, and we don't get enough chance to rest and recover. So I definitely recommend a lot more magnesium if you are traveling, and probably more, meditation and doing things which help relax the body, because as you calm the body, you then lose less magnesium. So you can conserve your magnesium supply by doing various things, with mind and contemplation and meditation and yoga, for instance. All of these practices conserve magnesium loss, and so that's why they're really healthy for us. But however,
that's why I love to do meditation. So,
yes, absolutely. But sometimes stresses are unavoidable, and the point is we need to recover well from them. And so enough rest and enough good nutrition that you can digest and absorb, which is always the caveat. Yes, taking a handful of supplements doesn't always help if you have digestive issues. So, people have to find a way to get their nutrition the right way. Maybe eat more. If you have digestive issues, go more for soups, organic foods, cook the right way so you don't have to work very hard to digest, eat more fermented foods. So there are lots of practices that help people improve their digestive capacity. And of course, probiotics are in the form of fermented foods. You could also take probiotic supplements. By the way, your gut health is also dependent on magnesium. So it's where you make your neurotransmitters and your immune system. The majority of your immune system relies on gut health to be working well. And, you know, all roads lead to Rome. I call magnesium the trunk of that nutritional tree. And it's the number one mineral when you're dealing with stress or recovering from stress. And so when people don't get enough, you know, they may go to the doctor and the doctor will say, well, you know, here's some Valium or other kind of drugs to numb and dumb everything down and to dampen down the adrenaline, but it's not really fixing the problem, is it? So it's a temporary Band-Aid, or it's like an aspirin. But what we want to do is have a lifestyle and strategies to self-care that actually avoid the problems in the first place, right? So we need to be able to recover well from stress, because the number one reason for all degenerative diseases to start with is stress that's unresolved and ongoing, and that becomes chronic, and that we can't refill the tank.
Yes, exactly. That's why I specialize in this, in stress management and meditations. And I actually have some freebies on my website. If people wanted to go on my website, you can get a free meditation and also a stress management video on spaforthesoul.com, spa the number 4 thesoul.com. And also, if you ever wanted to, you know, get a little bit of help falling asleep at night, I have some meditations for this and for that. But yes, what you're saying is so true. The stress is the root. If we can get to the root and take care of stress in a healthy way, be aware in the moment, have our whole life being a living meditation, pretty much, being aware of our thoughts, aware of our feelings, letting ourselves feel what we're feeling, giving ourselves love in that moment. You don't have to be perfect. Oh, another thing I wanted to add with one of the questions you asked earlier is that mindset is very powerful when it comes to dealing with something stressful and chaos. For example, there's a study done, and they found that people, when given the same stressor, one group was just given the stressor. I don't remember what it was exactly. It doesn't matter what it was, but it was given an extreme stressor. The other group was given the same thing, but the second group was told, this is a test. Let's see if you can pass this test, like a challenge. And they knew it was a challenge. And the ones that knew it was a challenge and they were like, oh, let me see if I can pass this test, they did a lot better than the ones that were just put in that situation and they didn't have the purpose of, oh, this is a challenge. I can overcome this. So mindset is super important.
Yeah. And I think a little bit of that is also that it's gamified. And so the challenge is really always part of a game. And you know, the game has a beginning and an end, and it's not a permanent thing, and it's like a virtual kind of reality. The game is the game. And this is how people are, I think, how they can recover better by using these mind techniques and walking through imaginary circumstances to overcome fears and issues. But they know that it's just a fiction, but you know, there's a part of the subconscious that doesn't know the difference between real and not real. And so these kind of exercises can be very helpful to kind of exorcise the demons, you know, to have a resolution to a problem in an imaginary way, but that resolves the emotion of it. Did you find?
Yes, that's why our mindset is so powerful. Yeah, exactly. And keeping in mind our values and our purpose, loving ourselves in spite of imperfections, because when it's a game, if you fail, you're like, oh, well, I'll learn from that. You know, if you're playing a video game and you don't make it to the next level because you die, you don't freak out. You just like, oh, well, I'm going to do it again. When I get to that level, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to get to the next level by doing it differently. It's fun. So it's a different mindset.
It's fun. And I think there's also the idea that that's not me, or it's not real, or it's something, it's my avatar, or it's something else, but I'm still here and I'm outside of that circumstance. And that's important, that kind of stepping in and out of a situation, or having a foot in each camp, where you can be both the objective observer of yourself and the subjective experiencer on the inside of that bubble. And if you can do both, I think you've won. I think that's the goal of everything, to be able to control and manage yourself better. You need to practice that stepping in and out. And to see yourself objectively is hard. You have to practice, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And what you said goes back to what we started to talk about at the beginning, the fight or flight, the ego death or physical death. So if it's a game, you're not worried about your ego death or failure isn't such a huge thing. It's just, oh, I'll be okay. It's externalizing it, and I'm still okay. It's just that the task I was trying to do at that certain moment didn't succeed, but I'm still fine.
Yeah. And I like also to have the idea that there is a greater power working for my benefit, looking after me. And it's a good power. And as long as I am willing to also tread that good path and do the best I can and be the best I can as a conscientious person, I know whatever happens is for my best good. Therefore, there are no such things as problems, really. They're learning exercises, and all I need to do is look for what I needed to get out of that. And then that unpleasant circumstance never happens again if I get what I'm supposed to get. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
It's so lovely to talk to you. And I'll put the contact details under the YouTube video if people want to find out more or catch up with you. And thank you so much for being my special guest today. It was really interesting.
It's been a pleasure talking with you, Sandy, and I've learned from you as well. Thank you for having me on your show.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and Magnesium special offers at electramagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.